Hello Digipilgrims. If you've just joined us, my friend DJ and I are doing a pilgrimage from Lindisfarne Island up in England's north down to Durham Cathedral, where the 1300-year-old beautifully illustrated Lindisfarne Gospels are currently on display. We're doing this in partnership with the Big Bible Project, and we're walking about 14 miles a day, a total of 100 miles over 8 days in total. And I can tell you today, folks, that I really am an official pilgrim because I have got my first blister. And it hurts. I can also tell you that if you're ever going to do this in physical form, not just in online form, around about the 10 mile or 12 mile mark per day is when your feet give out. The last couple of days, DJ and I have almost been hobbling into our destinations, but that's okay. It's all part of the journey. Okay, you would have probably watched DJ's video blog yesterday, which got us to Craster. I'm going to show you where we have gotten today. Yesterday we got ourselves to Dunstanburgh Castle, just near Craster. We overnighted in Craster. This morning we hit the coastline again with the castle in view for miles behind us. We've met so many interesting and friendly people along our way, like this guy, Mian, his name is. He's a fisherman in the town of Bula. He says "aye" a lot. He ends all of his sentences with "like," and he told us that he'd been involved in 2 films. He's really funny and very, very friendly, like all of the Northerners. We kept on going down the road to this pretty town of Alnmouth. We had to make a little revision to our trek plan. Sadly, just a few metres down from this point, we discovered there actually was a gate. But we don't need to talk about that, do we? Next stop was Warkworth, which is just simply gorgeous, a little town, and Warkworth Castle is just absolutely grand. And from this point on, we dragged our aching feet another couple of miles to Amble, and Amble is where I'm now speaking to you now, in a little B&B just by the water. Now, we've been following a route called St. Oswald's Way. It links sites connected with this 7th century king of Northumbria, who later on became a saint. Just to put this in context, it was St. Oswald who called Aidan from Iona to come and share the Christian message with his people. It was then Aidan who went on from there, after he founded a church, to found the monastery on Lindisfarne, and then St. Cuthbert followed Aidan to be Bishop of Lindisfarne, and it was St. Cuthbert's followers, of course, who created the Lindisfarne Gospels. There's been a number of times during our journey so far, and certainly today, when we've had this choice of either taking a low path down onto the beach and walking that way, or taking a high path, maybe going up into the fields or the dunes and looking down onto the beach from that point. When we've taken those high points, it's been amazing how much you could see. You could see and look back to a place like Dunstanburgh Castle, as I mentioned, which we could see for miles behind us. We could look forward to Warkworth Castle, which was hours in front of us, and yet we could still see it. And there is a sense in which when you're on pilgrimage, when you're on a journey like this, you can start to kind of look back on your life. Maybe even from that point be able to look forward onto your life as to where it might be heading. As we were walking along the path today, DJ said to me, "Tell me about your childhood. Was it happy? Was it sad? What was it?" And that got us into a conversation about our childhoods, and we learnt something about each other that we hadn't learnt before. I talked about some difficult times in my school years when I was an only child for the first 13 years of my life, so I was kind of a bit of a loner. I was kind of used to my own company, wasn't really the popular kid in school, to say the least. Found it hard to make friends quite early on. There was a bit of bullying later on in my school years, and those were difficult times indeed. DJ mentioned how he had actually grown up at a particular time when his parents were really struggling to make it financially. They took on this farm, the farm went through drought and all sorts of other things, and though they worked so hard, they found it incredibly hard to make ends meet. They had a TV that was run on batteries. For a few years there, they even lived without electricity. They had this old generator that only worked sometimes every now and then. And, you know, we both looked back at those aspects of our life and those experiences, and we could both say that those darker moments had actually shaped us to be the kind of people we are today. For me, there is a sense in which those lonely years have kind of sensitized me to those people who are lonely, and maybe who need to be brought into the community, need to be listened to. For DJ, he can say that maybe his real interest in the developing world, for the poor, which he's had for years, perhaps started back in those difficult years of being a child with I guess in a family which didn't have a lot of cash. He would say that there was no comparison, of course. Those people in the developing world have got it much worse than he ever did, and yet it's developed in him the sensitivity. When you're on a pilgrimage, you can look back at your life. You can see how even God has used the darker moments to shape you into the person you are today. And I wonder whether you can look back and be able to almost trace a little path forward as to where God might be leading you.